top of the morning to you. You're with me, Martine, on Martini Mornings, only on moodfoodradio.com. I'm really excited about our show this morning because we are going to meet a very special guest, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. So it's a timely reminder for men and women to get their breasts checked, but also 1 in 7 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. So this is so exciting to bring to you some fabulous tools that are both practical and for someone who is involved in breast cancer quite a bit, as you know, having a journal and some assistance and support from people who've been there before is so important. So I welcome aboard today the wonderful Cindy Scott. Good morning to you, Cindy.
Good morning. Thanks so much, Martine, for having me.
Well, it is just such a pleasure to have you, especially during this month, which is, of course, October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, where we're reminding women of all ages and backgrounds to get checked, but also acknowledging that 1 in 7 women are going to be diagnosed. And what is the support out there? So you have an amazing personal journey, but also you have really, managed to get a toolbox together of some fabulous items that can help so many men and women in this situation. So I'm so happy to have you here because we often, hear about the stories, but the actual practicalities is so important. So tell me, you have a really interesting personal journey with breast cancer. Can I ask you about it? Where did it start?
Sure. Well, I guess in 2016, I was diagnosed for the first time with breast cancer. I've had 2 runs at this now, so not that that's anything to be celebrating.
No.
But I was diagnosed. I was a single mum back then, running my own business, and I have a son. So, trying to keep a roof over our heads and put food on the table. And so my imperative was to actually continue to survive and run my business and provide service to my clients. And so back then, I would say I did all the wrong things in terms of really sweeping my diagnosis under the carpet. I did have a lumpectomy. I refused radiation and I refused drug therapy. And I didn't share it with anyone. Like I maybe told a couple of good friends, but work colleagues, clients, even some family didn't know what was going on for me. So in ways, it was like I was denying that it was even happening. It was like, this isn't happening. I'm rejecting any notion that I've got cancer, and I'm refusing any treatment because I don't have time for this. As so many,
I hear this quite a bit.
I'm sure.
Have you come across this? That where, I was very blasé I was very young as well. I was only 24, but I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and I was very blasé about the whole thing. And when I look back, I think, I was in denial and a bit like you, just try to keep busy and just pretend it hasn't happened and just get on with life and busyness.
I think absolutely too many of us are wearing that, I'm too busy kind of badge, like a badge of honor, but it's not. It's actually something that's really harming us. On top of that, I'm a bit of a go-get-em kind of independent. I've got this, I'm strong kind of woman. So it's like, I didn't really want to put myself in a position where I was dependent on someone or seemed to be weak. I didn't have time for that, and I didn't want to be that. I didn't want those labels. So it was quite a journey, and I thought, big tick, that's done. I can put that behind me.
Put that behind me, that whole cancer thing. That whole thing. Its ugly head. I've jumped that hoop. Yeah. But what happened?
And then so then January 2020 rolls around, and I have, I thought really corrected a lot of the things that were out of alignment in my life. So just to paint the picture for you, I was so gung-ho excited about 2020, thinking this is my year. And I'm sure most of us did. It just sounded like it had a really magical sort of, way about it. And I was 6 weeks out from getting married. My business was doing very well. And I was just ticking off a few things off my to-do list before getting married. And one of those was my routine mammogram and ultrasound. I thought, just better go get that done, and
Yeah.
that little thing. And so I went there, and he's scanning over my breast, and he's like, "You've got a lump?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I can't possibly." And I'm like feeling around with my fingers. I couldn't feel it. It was actually quite small. It was less than a centimeter. So we got it very early, but on a dime, my whole world turned upside down again. And this time it was actually in my lymph nodes as well. So it required immediate surgery and chemotherapy. And so my oncologist was like, "Cancel your wedding." I'm like, "No way, I'm not canceling my wedding." But at the same
to
time,
the wedding, Cindy?
yeah, well, what I wanted to say was COVID was also taking off right around that time. And so most of our guests were actually flying in from Canada or interstate. So it was just this colossal storm, you know, the perfect storm of all these things going on at the same time. And I have a few psychic friends, girlfriends, and one of them rang me on this particular Saturday morning. It was 2 weeks before our wedding. And she said, "Cindy, you must cancel your wedding." She was coming to the wedding. I'm like, "No, like, what do you mean? Why do I have to cancel my wedding?" And she's like, "I'm seeing this, like, I'm so worried for you and your health and all these people potentially coming and putting you at risk." And I hadn't thought of it that way or looked at it like that. My guests could actually be, you know, people that actually give me COVID, which would affect my entire cancer treatment. And then I thought, imagine having our wedding and COVID actually being spread around our wedding. And I thought that would not be a good start to a relationship either. So we canceled what was our 3-day, you know, wedding celebrations, which was going to be amazing and beautiful. And it will never be that way again with that same group of people. But we did elope. We did have 2 witnesses in a COVID friendly ceremony, which was stunning. And I must say I was probably a lot more relaxed as a bride doing it that way than having, you know, lots of people there and people from all over the world and, you know, trying to accommodate everyone. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations for that.
Yeah, thank you.
But certainly you were on the train for your breast cancer journey. I mean, it doesn't stop for anyone, or weddings or COVID.
It's like just when you think you've got life all tied away, you know, tidied up in nice little boxes, that's when you get blindsided with yet another, you know, challenge, another thing that gets in your way, and you kind of go, "Well, hang on, I haven't got time for this. I've got enough balls, you know, in the air already." But it's like a very commanding sort of, "No, you need to pay attention to this." So my life just changed, and I found myself in a very different situation this time. So I was engaged and got married. He actually married me after my diagnosis, a crazy guy. I told him, "This is your time to run," but he stayed. And but in a different situation where my son was off at uni, and this beautiful soul was saying to me, "You need to actually take time out for some treatment, and you need to approach this very differently than you did the first time around." And I went, okay. Like, I really grappled with that. Like, I really struggled to close my business down for a few months to get treatment and to let people down and think that people were going to be angry with me. And I spoke to a really dear girlfriend of mine. I've got a lot of beautiful sage women in my life. And, you know, this one particular lady, Vita, I ring every once in a while and say, like, "I need some advice. I need your sound guidance." And she said, "What advice would you give to another woman going through what you're going through?" And I'm like, well, of course I'd tell her if she was able to stop work and take time out for treatment and give her self time to heal. But even that was really hard. I sat on it for another week. I really struggled to actually say, "You know what, Cindy, you're worth it. You are worthy of taking time out."
Do you see that, Cindy, with people who are in those, you know, helping, healing areas of life? They are the people who find it the hardest for them
to shine that light back on.
Totally. Even though they know how important it is.
Yep, absolutely. And that was really difficult. So then one day I sat down and I drafted the email that I sent out to my e-news list and my clients and colleagues. And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but this is what's happened. And I'm downing tools for a while, indefinitely. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. I'm really sorry to, you know, be putting people out and whatever." But what I was absolutely gobsmacked at was the outpouring of support that came back immediately. Like, it was like I hit send, and all of a sudden all these replies came back in, and they're just like, not one person was upset or disappointed, or they all just poured their heart out and said, "Look, we're here for you, whatever you need." And that was a real game changer for me, to actually be vulnerable, to open myself and my heart to say, I'm struggling right now. I need to do this for me, to put me first for once. And I'm really sorry, this might be an inconvenience to you. And no one took an affront to that. Everyone was like, no, we are here for you. And I just felt so loved in that moment. Like, that just buoyed my spirits. It was amazing.
I understand though, Cindy, that although you did step back and take some time for you, I mean, you got busy healing and then creating to help others. So whilst you did step out of the light there for a while with your formal clients, I mean, you certainly used your skills and your knowledge to then start building a toolbox.
I did. Look, it didn't start that way, Martine. Really, what happened was I was really struggling. So I think, people, they sort of focus on the physical elements of cancer treatment. It's like, get these cells out, we'll have the surgery, do the chemo, do the radiation. But what about the emotional and the psychological side of cancer treatment? And I kept saying to my breast surgeon and my oncologist, like, what about these parts? And they're like, oh no, well, we don't help you with those things. And I'm like, but that's what I'm really struggling with. I'm trusting that you've got my physical body in hand. Yes. But what about the absolute upheaval this has created emotionally and psychologically for me? And I went into some pretty dark places, as I'm sure many do, that really surrender to the process of going through treatment and looking in the mirror and seeing this bald, ugly person looking back at me like I'm well and truly this cancer patient.
Yeah.
I went into some pretty dark places and I was looking for support. And my husband, actually, he rang the Cancer Council one day and explained the whole story. I wasn't even able to pick up the phone and seek help. Like, I was in such a state of victim. I was like, woe is me, life sucks, I can't believe I'm here again. And he rang and he ended up handing the phone over to me, and he said, oh, look, there's a lady, Lucy, on the phone. She's here to chat with you. And I just poured out all that had happened for me and all the change and all the things that I'd lost. And she just said, like, that's a lot. Yeah. And I'm like, it is a lot. And thank you for validating me, because it was an enormous amount of change in a very short period of time. But alongside that, what I also started to do was journal. I started writing to try and make sense of what was happening and to express some of the emotion that seemed to be just, overtaking me. And so I started journaling. And at the same time, I belonged to this beautiful group of women. We call ourselves the Soul Sisters. And because of COVID, we were catching up each week on Zoom. So for between 2 and 3 hours a week, we would have these beautiful calls. And one day, one of those girls said, look, Cindy, why don't you write a book? And I'm like, no, I don't think the world needs another cancer book, another cancer story. Like, I just don't think it needs one. Yeah. But then as I started sitting with that, I thought, well, what if it was more of a workbook? What if it was more practical in nature, where I could bring some of my coaching tools in there and some of my mindfulness practices, some of the complementary therapies that I used along the way, because I really took myself on like a special project, and I did everything and anything I could, anything I could afford, anything I could find to actually heal from the inside, as well as allow the doctors to work on me from an external point of view. So the book, as soon as that conceptual idea came to be in my mind, that it was more of a practical guidebook for people navigating a cancer journey, it was like it was born through me. It had to come. So I'm proud to say the Healing Journal has actually become a real live book. It's a beautiful hardcover.
That is magnificent.
Yeah,
it's very warm and welcoming.
It's a very feminine book, and it's got a nice band on it to keep it closed, so that it's a special, keepsake to put your deepest thoughts and fears and concerns in, and then you can close it up and put it away when you're not wanting to look at that, and then pull it out again when you are ready to. So it's a special book that really helps people all the way through their treatment, and to find ways to understand the upheaval of the emotions, find some new perspectives and some new ways to, like a new mindset really, on how to cope going through cancer with greater ease.
Yes. And is it for women just with breast cancer, or is it,
No, it's
to any
for
cancers?
it's for any type of cancer, because I think the journey is going to be quite similar. I talk about the change curve. So we start with sort of like shock, denial, bargaining, and then we go down into the depths of depression, then back out the other side. And I'm sure every person diagnosed and hearing those 3 words, "you have cancer," will journey along that path.
Absolutely.
So this book also too is it has a very positive focus. So like, I'm not sugarcoating it, but the actual tagline is called "The Gift of Cancer." And I've had several people ask me now, well, what are the gifts of cancer? And I'm like, there have been so many for me that, you've got to read the book. But like, there's at least 12 gifts, like 12 ways that cancer has changed me, including finding my life purpose. So not that I would wish cancer on anyone, but this particular experience for me has woke me up to myself, woke me up to my life purpose. I feel far more creative and inspired than I've ever felt in my life.
That's just fabulous, especially after all of that treatment, because it is physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually quite ravaging as well.
Absolutely.
So to be able to come out the other end, and let people know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, is very empowering, because so many women, anger, denial, and depression, I mean, that can be quite circular as well, going through that and wondering, when is it ever going to end? And you talk about and I love this phrase, to quell the cocktail of emotions swirling within you. And I think, you're trying to ground yourself and to stop the world rushing by you for a minute, just to be able to collect your breath, so that you do have the strength to face the current challenge, and then the next challenge that goes on after that.
Absolutely. Look, I think nothing can prepare you for it. Like, people ask me, well, has your first experience with cancer actually prepared you for the second? I'm like, absolutely no way. And I wonder, would you say the same for you?
Very different experiences. Different, as you say, different place in life, different outset. I was only in my early 20s, so I was in the early chapters of my book, and now that I'm halfway through my book, with a lot of experience, and also different support systems around you, and also technology, I find changes, and there's new ways of doing things, or reverting back to old ways, and we know about the BRCA genes and things like that help you guide your decisions. So I think I was actually talking to someone yesterday about birth, and she was asking me, how is it that every birth is so different, that every child, and I said, well, every pregnancy is so different, every birth is so different, every child is so different, and I think that you can equate that to a cancer journey. You're not just unwrapping a Mars bar every time, and one size does not fit all, and unfortunately you can't just rock up to your specialists, and there'll be a team of specialists as well, which is also quite daunting, and you can't they can't give you the guesstimate as to what your story might unfold as. I mean, you've got to discover that yourself, and that in itself is one of the scariest things that you can embark on, I think. So
absolutely,
tools like this is, I think, invaluable. But you've gone beyond the book and the journal. You've actually put together a program as well for women who are newly diagnosed, who are going through treatment as well. Tell us about that, because someone who's been through it a few times now, this kind of program, really could have been a lifesaver, especially, when we are talking about those, emotions, that cocktail of emotions. So tell us about the program that you have.
Well, I think as I started to create the Healing Journal, the book, I had a vision to create an online training program as well to help with the very same issues. So helping with the emotional and psychological, as well as the spiritual growth that accompanies something so adverse. And so after the book came out, I thought, of course, there's 12 beautiful chapters in there, and I'll create an online program that mirrors those. So the Healing Journal is actually the workbook for the online course, and the course is called the Cancer Companion e-course.
Yes,
And so
lovely.
it's chock-a-block full of, it's got expert interviews, it's got mindfulness practices, meditations, there's some exercise programs in there like Qigong, and yoga classes. There's my journey, a little bit of my journey sharing in there. There's lots of what I call love in action practices. So practices for the reader and the listener to connect with their own experience more fully, how to be more loving and kind to yourself as you're going
Wow.
through.
Mm.
So
That's
yeah,
so
it's a
important.
beautiful program. Pardon?
Yes, yeah. Well, congratulations on moving through your cancer journey and being able to ride out some of those storms, and acknowledging that this is a tough gig, and you don't just as I say unwrap it like a pizza, throw it in the oven and hope that it works out well, because it often comes out a gooey mess at the end. So thank you for using your experience to create such wonderful tools. How can we access a tool for ourselves, or maybe it's someone who's recently diagnosed? How can we access this?
The best place is to find it on my website. So that's evolvingwomen.co. And so there's the book on there. You can register for the e-course on there. And there's plenty of beautiful healing gifts on there as well to help support people going through cancer treatment process or change of any sort. So ways to actually heal from the inside. So I've got some beautiful teas and oils and crystal bracelets. So lots of different gifts and hampers. If you're looking for something that's a little bit different than flowers and chocolates and champagne,
I love
something.
that idea, Cindy, because that's often a question I was asked when I was going through treatment, and people wanted to gift me things. But since then, people are asking, my friend's just been diagnosed, or co-worker, I want to put together a package. Do I put in bath bombs and things like that? And whilst I said, look, I'm sure anyone would appreciate anything that you give them, and chocolates and wine is lovely, and bath bombs and things like that. I know myself, I wasn't in a state to be eating chocolates or wine, or getting in and out of the bath. I really wanted something practical that could help and assist me. I wanted someone to take the kids to school, house cleaning, practical things like that. The best thing anyone gave me was the preschool organised a food train, a dinner train, where every second night someone would make a home cooked meal and drop it off to us.
Oh, wow.
So the most beautiful thing, and it really helped me and my family, because they were living on frozen pizza at the time, to get through it and make me feel as though I was able to feed the kids. So having these beautiful products, I think are so welcomed. Having a lovely tea or something is so welcomed for someone going through, as you say, not just breast cancer, but different upheavals in life. Who knows what throws at us?
I think too, Martine, we've got to, and this is something that I've become increasingly more aware of as I've gone through treatment, is how many chemicals we put on our skin, we have in our own home environment, what we're putting in our mouths. Yeah. And so wine and champagne are actually among some of the worst things that we can be putting in our bodies. And I love them.
On the list, aren't they, of cancer creating problems?
Absolutely.
So, yes, yeah.
And as much as I love a nice drink like the next person, but I've really thought, okay, if I actually am serious about not producing more cancer in my body, I need to eliminate these things. Sugar feeds cancer as well. Yes. Chemicals, like the amount of toxins that we are surrounded by. So the products that I've created the healing teas. They are chemical free. They are premium quality. They have been formulated by a naturopath and Chinese medicine practitioner. The oils are free of chemicals and fragrances. Like even candles that people are burning, like they might smell nice, but they're full of petrochemicals. So like eliminate fragrance.
Yes.
Like products you're putting on your face and your body. I mean, our skin is our biggest organ, so it's absorbing all of this stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we need to be really mindful of what we're putting on and in our body. And so these products are really supportive, nourishing products for your body.
I love it. So we can look on your website again for that.
They are on there.
Christmas is coming up. The Australia Post is slowing down. So I would suggest anyone get onto your website and start, ordering some of these goodies because they sound fabulous. I can't wait to have a look. Cindy, it has been wonderful chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for bringing something to the breast cancer community. I think it's screaming out for some of the products that you have, especially the journal, the program. That's just wonderful. So I appreciate your time, and I can't wait to get on your website and look for more.
Thanks so much for your time today, Martine.
Thank you. That was the wonderful Cindy Scott. She's got a book out, journal, a fabulous course for those women who have just been diagnosed with breast cancer or any cancer. And we can't wait to see what she will have in store for us next. Get onto her website. We'll pop all the links down below, and you too can have a look. Christmas is coming up, guys. So you've been with me, Martine, from Martini Mornings, only on moodfoodradio.com. Make sure you like and subscribe, and you'll hear about other fascinating stories as we go along. Thanks so much, and take care.